Like when Americans think boots on the ground, they think Americans in harm's way or engaged actively in a conflict. You guys seem to be sort of saying that.
This is the Secretary of Defense, Lloyd Austin, in front of Congress, and he's being questioned by another piece of human garbage. However, we are in such a backwards world that the only time you occasionally get some serious questioning of our military industrial complex is from some lunatic Republican who happens to be right on a couple of foreign policy issues. So you will never get this from the Democrats. Their job, the Democrats' job is just to defend the military at all costs. Most of the Republicans feel their job is just to defend the military, the Pentagon, the U.S. empire at all costs. And then there's a few rogue Republicans who are garbage on like every issue except occasionally a foreign policy issue they get right. That's why I'm playing this clip of Matt Gaetz, piece of shite. This is about the pier that the U.S. is building outside of Gaza, right? You recall that. It's a Trojan horse. It's complete bullshit, but the U.S. is using it as theater to say, oh, we're building a pier to give aid to Gaza. And they've already been building it for well over a month. I think it's been a month and a half that they've so-called been building this pier. If they really wanted to get aid in there, they just threaten Israel, and the U.S. should just threaten Israel and then get the gates opened and then get the aid in there. That's how the U.S. could do it. But they're not doing that. Instead, they're building this pier that Israel's allowing to be built, right? Israel could bomb the pier and get rid of it at any moment. And why would Israel want a pier? Well, it actually goes back to pre-October 7th that Netanyahu and others had said they should build a pier onto Gaza so that they could push Gazans basically out to sea where they'd be on boats, and then the boats would have to dock somewhere so other countries would let them in rather than watch them die at sea. And so it's basically a way to ethnically cleanse Gaza is why this thing is being built, or at least why Israel's allowing it. Now, the U.S. may have some other intentions. Oh, it's going to get aid in there. But anyway.
Let's stay on the same subject. Ms. Locken just said there'll be about 1,000 U.S. service members operating a pier system off of Gaza. How many of them will have guns, Mr. Secretary?
Well, typically all of the deployed service members carry guns, and they have the ability to protect themselves if challenged.
So if someone from land in Gaza shoots at our service members who are on the $320 million pier that we're building, you're telling me our service members can shoot back?
They have the right to return fire to protect themselves. Now,
do we think that's like? So now I want to move to the likelihood.
Biden has promised no boots on the ground, right? That's what he said in Gaza. No U.S. boots on the ground. If you drop a bunch of U.S. military, stop calling them service members, U.S. military in or adjacent to Gaza, whether it's on a pier or on the land or on the beach or in a boat, it doesn't fucking matter. It's there. If you do that, then you've got boots on the ground because they're in the midst of it. They're in the midst of an ongoing genocide, an ongoing war. And of course, it's likely something's going to happen to someone. I mean, the odds that no one in Gaza, 0% of Hamas want to harm the military that is actually helping perpetrate the genocide, probably something's going to happen. And when something's happened, what do you think the U.S. military's response is going to be? Oh, it's going to be overwhelming, quote unquote, force, overwhelming, obliterate wherever they feel they were threatened. And so, of course, you're dropping boots on the ground into a combat situation. That's what that is.
Good. That you think someone from land in Gaza might shoot at our service members on this pier. Do you think that that's a likely scenario?
That's possible, yes.
This is a very telling moment, Mr. Secretary, because you've said something that's quite possible that could happen, right? Shots from Gaza on our service members, and then the response, our armed service members shooting live fire into Gaza. That is a possible outcome here so that we can become the Port Authority and run this pier. Right?
That's correct. You know, I expect that we will always have the ability to protect ourselves. Don't you think that counts as
boots on the ground? President Biden told the country that we weren't going to have boots on the ground in Gaza.
And we won't.
Okay, but you guys...
And we won't. It's just boots on the water. It's not boots on the ground. You see, he said boots on the ground. And in fact, we're going to give them flippers, you know, the swimmy flippers, so they can flip, 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 flip. So there won't be boots and there won't be ground. So it's not boots on the ground, because there's no boots, there's no ground. It's just, and in fact, the ones that are standing on the pier will give them flip-flops. So there's no boots, there's no ground. It's flip-flops, water, and flippers. That is it. So he was totally telling the truth when he said no boots on the ground. Of course it's boots on the ground. Of course that's what it is. Oh, it's on a pier. Boots on a pier. It's, dude, the amount of lying and bullshit that comes out of this damn government.
Let's parse the distinction between, like, when Americans think boots on the ground, they think Americans in harm's way or engaged actively in a conflict. You guys seem to be sort of saying that boots on a pier connected to the ground, connected to service members shooting into Gaza, doesn't count as boots on the ground?
It does not.
I think you're going to find.
It does not. It does not count as boots on the ground when you just drop U.S. military, armed, heavily armed, of course, onto a pier adjacent to Gaza while Israel is bombing every 10 minutes. Yeah, there's no boots on the ground. Now, of course, I brought to you, and a few others highlighted this as well, that it was already a farce, even before the pier thing. It was already a farce that the U.S. wasn't involved in this. The U.S. ships weapons to be dropped on Gazans every 36 hours. Tens of thousands of bombs and missiles have been given to Israel to drop on Gazans. The CIA and the U.S. military is in Israel, helping Israel perpetrate their genocide. The New York Times even reported, which is a U.S. And Israel propaganda outlet, but sometimes they report something of truth. The New York Times even reported that the CIA was helping Israel assassinate Palestinians. So if you have the CIA in Israel helping Israel target, murder, assassinate Palestinians, how is that not boots on the ground in this conflict? Oh, because they didn't walk into Gaza? Like that matters? I also brought you the leaked memo from the Pentagon telling U.S. military personnel in Iraq to be ready, to be prepared to ship out to Gaza if Israel should need assistance. That was coming from the Pentagon. That memo was not supposed to be leaked. We have boots on the ground in about 12 different ways, but no, it doesn't count. It's flippers on the sea.